and this is Critical Thinking. Thanks for signing up for the class. I hope that we have a great time talking about issues. This is a class that, of course, is more fun if you're actually in class, and I can challenge you, and I can make you mad, and I can upset you, and I can make you think. But since we can't meet together, I'm going to do my best to do so over line. My phone number is 252-468-8708. That is my cell phone that I keep right here with me at all times. So if you need to speak to me, please feel free to call me anytime during the day, evening, or weekends will be fine. So you are in critical thinking. My job is to make you think critically. My job is not to change your mind necessarily about what you think, but to help you think about what you think. You were born into this world with no opinions. You had no prejudices, you had no judgments. You were opinion free when you were born into this world. Some opinions now that you have formed will guide you, and some opinions may actually hold you back. Critical thinking will help you decide which opinion will do what for you. Critical thinking does not focus so much on what caused you to have a belief or what caused you to have a certain opinion, but it helps you to focus on whether that opinion and that belief is worth having. Now, the real definition of critical thinking, the one that I will ask you on an exam for, is this. It's the evaluation or the formation of beliefs by rational standards. We have our rationales that we each look at in order to form opinions. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't look at our rationales. We simply accept what other people have told us to think. That's not always good, because, you know, people who give you opinions, whether it's your parents or your teachers or your preachers or your friends, sometimes they haven't formed their opinions based on solid facts. Not always. Sometimes their opinions are great. Sometimes they're not. What it boils down to is this. You are the artist of your own life. Every day you paint your life. Your colors are the decisions that you make. The important question is, do you make well thought out decisions about important aspects of your life? Not only college courses to take, what job to take, what car to drive, what house to drive or have, what can I afford, what can I not afford, how do I raise my children, but other important issues like how you feel about social issues, political issues, important things in the world, because you are a citizen of the world and you are allowed to have opinions. We just need you to have informed opinions, even if it's not the same one as I have, even if you don't agree with me or agree with everyone else. Of course you're not. The opinion you have is valid as long as you make it on well-informed, good reasons, let's say. I'm going to ask you a lot during this course. Do you think for yourself, or do you let other people do the thinking for you? Thinking for yourself is crucial for you to be a happy human being. Critical thinking matters because our thinking guides our lives. It's what makes us do what we do, and we cannot not think. We think every single minute of our waking hours. Many people think when they're sleeping. Here's a clue. Here's a little something maybe you didn't know. Gentlemen, ladies have more active brains than we do. Women think more. There's more activity going on in the brain at night when we're asleep in a female brain than there is in a male brain. Did I say they're smarter? Not. Hey, just saying, just telling you something now. When you think, though, good for yourself, when you think critically and solid, you help yourself set your goals, you help yourself achieve your goals, you help yourself make decisions, you help yourself solve your problems. Thinking effectively will give you purpose and will lead to fulfillment. By not thinking critically, you lose your personal freedom. If you've just been accepting what's been handed to you all your life, then those beliefs are not really yours, are they? They're someone else's that you've adopted. If you let those beliefs guide you, then you're truly not in charge of your own life. You have to have autonomy. Autonomy, A-U-T-O-N-O-M-Y. It means you have charge of your life. You take direction of your own destiny. You're in college now. Technically, you are an adult. Some of you may be an adult like me. Some of you may be an 18-year-old adult. But you are an adult now. You are allowed to think. You are allowed to form your own opinions, and you are allowed to state them. Critical thinking is a collection of skills that we use every day necessary for our personal growth and for our intellectual development. The word critical comes from the Greek word kritikos, and it means discernment or the ability to judge. Critical thinking involves learning how to think rather than what to think. Critical thinking also employs logic. Logic is the ability to determine a good argument from a weak argument. Critical thinking is not simply offering your opinions. Opinions are like, well, you know the old saying, opinions are based on personal experience. Often opinions are not based on reason or evidence, but on what we feel is right or wrong. And sometimes it's not the right opinion to have. As a critical thinker, you must be able to analyze your opinions in order to determine if you have any weaknesses or any prejudices that maybe flavors those opinions in a negative way. Some opinions are reasonable, some are not. The intelligent critical thinker is willing to admit that his or her opinion may actually be wrong. The critical thinker is willing to look at both sides of an issue in order to understand someone else's opinions and viewpoints. The critical thinker understands that there's not any issue in the world that's yes or no, black or white, right or wrong, one or two. There's always various shades and various roads you can go down in between those. So it's never an either-or situation. That's a fallacy. It's called a false dilemma fallacy. There's never either-or. When you do not think critically, you have uninformed opinions. This can cause you to make poor decisions. It can cause you to act in ways that you will later regret. Some people make decisions that only affect them and never think about how those decisions may affect other people. Thinking critically means you reflect on your own life. Socrates, one of the greatest thinkers, the original thinker, said that the unexamined life is not worth living. It's the first thing you see on the website. In other words, do you learn from your past experiences? Do you learn from the errors you have made and from the errors you have seen other people make? Do you learn from foolish decisions? Do you ever think about what you think about? Think of all the people you know. Think of all the smart people you know who make bad decisions. Think of all the foolish people you know. Ask yourself this. How many people do you know that you will actually put your child in the backseat of a car and let that person drive from here to New York and back, and you be completely comfortable in all the decisions that that adult would make concerning your child? You don't know that many, do you? Me neither. You make decisions every day of your life. You define yourself as a person by the decisions you make. Now let me ask you a question. I ask all my seated classes this, and sometimes we'll get into an argument. If you were walking in front of Walmart, say, and you saw a $100 bill on the ground, what would you do? Of course, we'd all would pick it up. But what defines us as a person is what we do next. Now, I've had many people say, well, it's a gift from God who put it there and wanted me to have it. Really? God wanted to take that $100 away from someone else and give it to you, so he made someone else sad by losing it? Really? What would you do? What would you do? I would hope that you would take it inside and turn it in to the people at the Walmart desk. Well, how do you know they're not going to steal it, Mr.? Well, that's not up to you. Once you turn it in, you can't determine what happens from it then on. But what is important is that you do the right thing. This is when you start to build your moral compass within yourself. What will you do and what will you not do? I'll be asking you that all through this course. There are certain things that I will not do. I will not cheat. I will not steal. I will not say the GD word. Now, there's lots of things I do that I shouldn't do. But there are certain things that I have set for myself that are part of my ethics and that I just will not do. You need to start deciding what are your ethics now. What is your moral code of behavior? Learning to think critically means we have to unlearn things. We sometimes need to get out of the rut we're in. We all get into a rut because so many people have told us things, parents and religion and teachers and friends, and you must learn to think for yourself. You must learn to trust your opinions if those opinions are based on solid fact. Now, critical thinking is not just a single skill. It's a collection of things that you develop as you become a better critical thinker. Now, write these down. You're going to want to know these. One, you will develop your analytical skills. As a critical thinker, you must be able to analyze and provide logical support for your beliefs rather than just rely on your opinions. Often your opinions are not well founded. So analytical skills. Two, you will develop research and inquiry skills. Now when you have an inquiring mind, you will search out facts. You will look at, say, the computer, and you will learn how not to go to the National Enquirer sites and maybe not even to Wikipedia, because that's not always, credible sources do not always give information to Wikipedia, although I read Wikipedia myself. Some sites are more credible than others. When you write a paper or when you present information to your job or to your church or to whoever you're presenting it to, you want that information to come from a credible site. So being a critical thinker helps you to develop those research and inquiry skills. You will become open-minded. Critical thinkers work toward overcoming personal prejudices and personal biases. You have to not look at life this way, you have to look at it this way. Open up those blinders and see everybody else. They all have a right to be here, and everyone has a right to be happy. You will become more attentive, more mindful, more curious. You've got to go out and look for things that interest you. Good critical thinkers do not reject views that conflict with their own views. They embrace those views and then they analyze them. Notice I didn't say they change their mind, but they do embrace other people's viewpoints and try to understand why those people have those viewpoints. Critical thinkers live the self-examined life. They take charge of their life. They think about the responsibility of the decisions they make, and they try not just to fit into a crowd. Critical thinkers will develop a life plan. I know my hat keeps moving. Critical thinkers develop a life plan. You set goals. You set small goals and you try to achieve them, and you set your larger goals in the future and you work toward those goals. Doesn't mean you can't change them along the way, but you need to set them so you have a starting place. It helps you develop your skills, your passions, your interests, and it helps you to develop your values. Also, as I mentioned, you become autonomous. You take control of your life. Stop blaming everyone else. History didn't put you where you're at. Your mama didn't put you where you're at. Your preacher didn't put you. You put you where you're at. And if you don't like it, change it. And if you do like it, stay there, but get better at it. And it also, being a critical thinker, also finally helps you have political literacy. You are a citizen of the United States. You're a citizen of the world. If you're not part of the solution, you really are part of the problem. Part of the solution doesn't necessarily mean you have to do anything. It can mean you just think about something, or you talk to someone about something, or you help someone see a better way of thinking about an issue. Sometimes it does involve getting into a committee or a group or to a political election. Someone's got to be president. You know, 8-10 years ago, Obama didn't think he was going to be president. No one thought he was going to be president. But look at us now. He's been a successful president for 8 years. Why couldn't you? Why couldn't you set that as your goal? Hey, something to think about. There are certain types of resistance to critical thinking, and I'd kind of like to mention some of those to you right now. Many people who don't think avoid. A-V-O-I-D, they avoid. Rather than seeking out different viewpoints, they avoid certain people and certain situations. They only watch TV shows or news shows or only read newspapers that they happen to agree with. Number two, anger is a type of resistance. We often respond with anger toward an opposing viewpoint. Anger may be expressed with threats or glares or physical fighting or gangs or wars. Now, some anger is good. Sometimes anger motivates people to action. But sometimes anger just lets people avoid critical thinking. That's not the good anger. Number 3, cliches. Cliches keep us thinking in our own way, the way we've always thought, the same thing by saying things like, oh, well, if it's meant to be, it will be. Oh, well, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Oh, well, that's just how life happens. Baloney. Don't think that way. People who think that way avoid missing out the chance to change or the chance to make change happen. So avoid cliche thinking. Number 4, avoid denial. People often pretend a situation does not exist. For example, right now in America, we're pretending we really don't have an oil problem because there will always be gas, there will always be oil, there always has been. Well, no, my friends, it's going to run out sometime, and we need to be making steps now to find out what we're going to do when it does run out. Don't deny that certain things exist because it may be uncomfortable to think about. Next one, ignorance. Many people intentionally do not learn about a situation in order not to have to think about it. They think that excuses them from responsibility. Another problem, conformity. Many people, especially young people, fear they will not be accepted by their friends if they disagree with their friends. This is the old jump on the bandwagon thing. Everyone else is doing it, so I have to do it. I won't be popular if I don't agree with them. This is called learning to stand on your own 2 feet. Don't just go along with the crowd. If you're at work and you're standing around talking to people and someone makes a racist joke or a gender joke or a homophobic joke or some joke that's just not appropriate, can you walk away? Can you say, I'm not comfortable with this, and walk away? That is critical thinking. I didn't say look at them and say, you're wrong. Simply by walking away, you're going to let them know that you think they're wrong. Are you strong enough to do that? Or are you still a teenager? Finally, distractions. Many people do not like to live alone with their own thoughts. To avoid having to think about troubling issues, they use television, they use food, they use shopping, they use anything in order not to think about what they need to think about. So these are some problems that can pop up when some people try to avoid critical thinking. I will mention them again quickly. They are avoidance, anger, cliche, denial, ignorance, conformity, and distraction. Now, there are a couple of types of narrow-mindedness I'd like to mention that also stands in the way of critical thinking. One is called absolutism. This involves people who regard a situation as right or wrong, yes or no, this or that. Nothing is ever that simple. Remember that. People who say, America, love it or leave it. Well, no, I actually don't have to do either one if I don't want to. People who say either you're for us or you're against us. Well, no, it's not that simple. That is known as absolutism. A second one is known as egocentrism. Egocentrism. This is the belief that we are the center. The individual is the center of all things. It's an ego person, a person full of ego. This type of person has little thought for other people and other people's opinions. We all probably know someone like this. A third is called ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism. This is belief that your own culture, your own religion, your own political party, your own race is better than everybody else's. They're right, or they're wrong, and I'm right. No, it doesn't work that way. We try to get away from ethnocentristic behavior. Nothing wrong with feeling patriotic, nothing wrong with loving the religion you're in, nothing wrong with loving the political party that you're affiliated with. But it's not the only right party or the only right religion. Keep that in mind. And finally, a fourth one is anthropocentrism. Anthropocentrism. Now this one's kind of odd, and many people haven't heard of this. This is the belief that humans are the most significant thing on earth. Think again. We're not. We're the most destructive thing on earth. Now, nothing wrong with people. We're great people. We're great thinkers. We're great builders. We move civilizations along. But we also destroy a great deal of what we come in contact with. And keep this in mind. Almost every species on earth would do just fine without humans. but humans could not do without many of the species on Earth. Bumblebees, for example. We wouldn't be here without bees. Whales are much smarter than humans. They communicate so much better than humans do. So these are just 4 narrow-minded things that may stand in your way of becoming a critical thinker. Finally, 5 things that will happen to you as you see yourself become a better critical thinker. 1, you'll be more honest with others and yourself. You'll know where your expertise is, and you'll know where you need to get some more information at. You'll be able to stand up against what is right or what is wrong and present a better opinion to people. Number 2, you'll have a little more humility. Humility is when you discover how much you don't know. You will develop an open mind, and you'll be able to understand how other people think, which will make you a smarter person yourself. Number 3, you'll have patience. Critical thinking, like everything in life, takes a little bit of time to develop. It doesn't happen overnight. Certain parts of it start happening immediately, but don't expect it all to happen immediately. You got to work on it. Number 4, you will become self-aware. We all have our lenses through which we view reality. Everything we look at, we filter it through what we've been through in the past, through our experiences of the past. We have to realize that those of our experiences are ours, it's not everyone else's. And simply because we view something our way doesn't mean it's necessarily the right way or the correct way. And number 5, you'll have better social interaction. We need to interact. We are a social animal as humans. We need to hear others. Okay? Now, that's chapter 1. In chapter 9, just to tell you quickly what it's about morals. And I'm not necessarily talking about religion. I'm talking about morals, basic human rights, basic human needs, basic human requirements that are free of political or religious restraint. That's a little something I want you to start thinking about. Morals are not always based on religious principles. Some are, some are not. Now, I will warn you again about thinking that everything is based on your religious view. Don't think that. Many others have different ideas about God or Jesus or the Bible that may not agree with the ones that you have. It does not make them wrong and you right. Many other religions do not have the same version of God as we do. They have a Savior or a Messiah that may not be Jesus. It may be Muhammad. It may be any other form of divine person. Does not make them wrong and you right. They have their own religious figures. You cannot, as a Christian, which many of you are, I think, you cannot tell someone of another religion they're going to hell. How can they go to hell if their religion doesn't recognize a hell? So, you know, I might be stepping on some toes here, but this is part of critical thinking. I didn't say your religious views are wrong. Your religious views are right for you if you have them develop and become richer over time. Your religious views shouldn't be just what you've been told by a preacher or just what you've been told by your mama or grandmama. Those are good. Keep those, but learn to filter them for what's important to you. Becoming a critical thinker means you respect all religious views. Critical thinking should help you think through life situation. However, you should strive to become an enlightened thinker. One difficult area in critical thinking is about moral issues. You must have and know your own inner moral compass. Often we know what is right or wrong for others, but we fail to recognize or to acknowledge what is right or wrong for ourselves. In other words, we hold others to a rigid moral code that sometimes we don't hold ourselves to. Let me ask you this. Would you cheat on a test? Would you buy a paper offline and then give it to me and claim it as your own? Would you stop a friend from driving drunk even though he or she says it's okay that they're not that drunk? Would you flirt with a person whom you knew was married just because that person was flirting with you? Would you laugh at a joke about a certain race or a certain fat person if you were standing in a group of people? Would you steal from work? Would you refuse to give money to a homeless person because they might use the money to buy drugs instead of getting something to eat? You need to think about these things. This is when you start building your own moral codes of ethics. Ethics and morality are concerned with helping people evaluate how the world ought to be. Thinking critically about moral issues will help you refine and enrich your own way of thinking. However, you must be willing to recognize that some of your beliefs may not be right. You must be willing to change some of your beliefs if you see that they need changing. Ethics and morals refer to the principles that govern our relationships with other people. Ethics and morals, let me say it again, refer to the principles that govern our relationships with other people, the ways in which we ought to behave, the rules and standards we should employ with dealing with others. Now, the study of ethics is derived from the Greek word ethos, E-T-H-O-S, meaning moral purpose or character. When we think about this, we ask ourselves, what is a good person versus a bad person? How do we promote happiness in other people? How much should we be responsible for other people? When is something just or unjust? When is something right or wrong? These are things we have to think about and not just be told what to think. Are there moral values that apply to all people of all cultures? I don't know. I'm asking you. Do not be so quick to mix religion in with your moral values. Moral values usually apply to what is right or wrong, acceptable or unacceptable, even when religion is not in the picture. Remember, as I said, everyone's not the same religion as you. Your religion is no greater or weaker than anyone else's religion. What is right for you is right for you. Just don't try to make your religion everyone's religion. Don't let your religious values become my reality. It just doesn't work that way. People today tend not to know the thinking and the writings of great philosophers or great religious thinkers of the past. This is because people today tend not to read very much. And if they do, they certainly do not read the teachings of great thinkers. And I admit they are boring sometimes. But you got to delve into it. It'll only help you become a better thinker. Maybe little squirts of it at a time, or maybe listening to some of the things I say that will come straight from a great thinker. Now, I'm not a great thinker myself. I try to be a great thinker. I want you to try to be a great thinker. But often I have to rely on what greater thinkers have said and written about. People today are not challenged to think about deep ethical concepts anymore. So they have not developed a well-grounded ethical system of their own. Instead, people rely on the mangled mess of childhood teachings that we get, popular wisdom, popular opinion, unreliable institutions. All of it has made just a mess out of some of our thinking. We need to straighten it out as critical thinkers. Developing yourself as a critical thinker and trying to see the viewpoints of others and being willing to change some of the outdated ways of thinking passed down to you or to me will help you a great deal. Now, that's all I'm going to talk about today. What I would like for you to think about is the question about the $100 bill in front of Walmart. Now, take some notes off this. Read the chapters. You have my phone number that I've given you. Let me give you my cell phone, 252-468-8708. Please call me if you have a question or if you have a complaint or if you want to scream at me for something I've said. Please feel free to do so. So until I see you again, thanks a lot.